right, here we go. Hello, everyone out there in Twitch chat land or YouTube land if you're watching this later. Welcome to Worlds After Dark. This is the episode airing after Playins Day 2. As always, I'm Drakos, here joined by my wonderful co-host, Frosk. She's on the opposite side. And sandwiched between us, this time it's not going to be Spawn, but none other than legendary Excel jungler, analyst desk guest, amateur turned professional caster, EU handsome boy. It's Caedrel.
You can't hype me up like that and then use those pictures in the announcement. I won't allow it.
Bro, it's we got to keep the people spinning. They're not sure if they should take you seriously. They're not sure if they should meme you. Like, they don't know where on what side of the coin you're ending up on.
It's fine.
They're like, that's what the people are waiting for, the commitment. They're like, does NA try to poach him? Does NA broadcast try to poach him? Does EU broadcast try to poach him? Does he stay on Excel? Where does Caedrel go? It's the number one question.
He's gonna stay in the jungle, but we'll see where he is. Yeah, and he'll be at Worlds next year. That's all we'll know.
Ooh, right? Ooh, for sure. Yeah. So that used to mean a lot, going to Worlds. It usually meant you were a pretty good team. But as we've learned from some of today's games, it's not always conclusive evidence. So to kick us off, let's start our new segment called What the Fuck Happened? First up is...
What a wonderful segment.
First up is LGD.
Wait. We've pitched this idea for so long at Broadcast, because the thing is we have like a giant green screen, and I've always wanted Broadcast to like just imagine this, Caedrel. You're on the analyst desk and you have to do a post-game show, and Trevor sends you to this giant green screen. He's like, okay, you can ask for anything you want, but you must, through green screen, describe what the fuck just happened in that last game. And so you like look at your tab, you're like, okay, I need a dumpster, and then like a dumpster background comes behind you, like I need flames, and like the flames come up. I just think it would be so good.
You need some Among Us characters. Make the imposter meme on live screen.
Yeah, just to be clear, like if we had LEC right now, we would have had an Among Us cold open by now. I want to make that clear to anyone in the chat. Like, there's no way. It would have gotten pitched by 8 different people in 8 different versions.
But Drakos,
I know.
We're
Spot the imposter.
We're getting an Among Us like opening in Playins right now. It is literally spot the imposter for the EU teams.
There's a lot of it, yeah, and in the LPL teams, there's a lot of imposters right now on Summoner's Rift. A lot of people,
it's actually the junglers seem to be the imposters for some reason most of the time.
Yeah, so let's kick off. Let's start with LGD. Frost, do you have any like strong, very concise thoughts about like what the fuck is happening with LGD, or should we just like run through the games like one at a time?
I think I said to Caedrel before the show started, I was like, you can't have no brain and no hands. Like, you have to pick one. And I actually think that LGD right now are just, the Venn diagram is a perfect circle. So the first comp that they ran was really slow. They are a slower paced team, but it was kind of like really outside the wheelhouse of like the champions that made them powerful. Again, like, they're here because they beat Invictus Gaming, and Invictus Gaming don't really have a bot lane, and so Kramer and Mark were able to just do like whatever they wanted and just had like 2 extra members. But like this is a disaster. Like, they don't understand the win conditions of their composition. When they have the Lilia comp, they're fighting fights they didn't need to be fighting at times that they didn't want to do it. When they had the composition today with a Twisted Fate and a Camille, I believe it was, they like never fought on side lane. They decided to like 5v5 flip into Dragon every single time, and I'm like, what? And then on top of it, then you also have like the mechanical mistakes of Kramer getting caught out, Peanut just like straight up inting on that Dragon. And so you have to pick one. You can't have both these things. And frankly, both these things are going wrong for LGD. This is atrocious. Like, they've always been an inconsistent team, but they were not this bad domestically.
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly about LGD. The big debate in my head right now is 2015 LGD more disappointing, or is this LGD more like, what is the bigger disappointment? Is it being the expected favorites from the LPL and then losing horribly in groups, or is it being 4th seed in LPL and losing in play-ins? Like, it's hard for me to know. I can't say from the Chinese fan perspective what they were expecting. But Caedrel, you brought up Peanut already, and you talked about the junglers being the imposters. So like, what the hell did you think of this like Lee Sin 43 CS, like 1-3 and 4? I don't remember what his scoreline was. He was doing stuff, but he was dying and he was horribly behind.
Yeah, he was running it quite hard. I think the first 10 minutes was fine. It was acceptable deaths. I mean, he was making plays, and I think he was like 1, 2, and 4 or something, and they had like 5 kills, something like this. He was involved in most of the things that was going on, but I think CA was playing pretty good actually in the early game. He was really all over the map, but yeah, I mean, Frosk said it's just like some of the team fights were cringe. The Dragon Smites were really terrible. When they lost to PSG, I thought like, okay, fine. The game was slow. They were winning the game against PSG, but then PSG just won the fight. So I was like, okay, maybe LGD, maybe they just had a bad game. You know, it's Worlds, it's first game of the day, whatever. But then they lost against Rainbow 7, who was already like 0-2 coming into the day. And even like teams already kind of stomped this team. So I was kind of like, I think LGD will come online, get their first win. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
And to be fair, it wasn't by
know
any
what's happened.
means an immaculate performance from Rainbow 7 either. Their jungler, whose name I'm currently blanking on, Jose Diodo.
Jose Diodo
was PvE Nidalee. He
Yeah.
had 10k total damage dealt to champions when he had like a 2-level and 1 full item completion lead over the Lee Sin. He hit a few spears, but I would guess that the number is less than 5 on spears he hit on unCC'd champions. Like, that was not good. Luckily for him, like, Alone was good, clean Orianna movement, hit a bunch of shockwaves, but also, yeah, this was Slops City.
Also, their draft wasn't the best, I think. Like, you draft Twitch Rakan, and then you have TF, Camille, and Lee Sin. It's like you have triple AD with a TF as your only AP, when the enemy team has like Nautilus Ornn. So in teamfights, the one that has to kill Ornn is TF, because that Ornn had like Randuin, Stormmail, Ninja Tabi, so Twitch is not going to kill him ever. And every time Twitch appeared, they just Ornn ulted him, so...
Yeah.
Or shockwaved him.
I think the fact that teams have been sleeping on like how prevalent Ornn has been, but also like the fact that so many people are picking like Senna and Ezreal into Twitch as well. Like, I don't know how Twitch is getting such free lanes all the time and why people aren't really punishing it, but it doesn't really matter when I guess you have like super tank that can stand in front and then like a huge, what is it, Diffie and the Jiffy? Definitely a big one.
Yeah.
True.
So
yeah, I don't know.
I'm so surprised we don't see more tanks in the top lane. Like, teams obviously we had like Arma playing a couple games today where he just like hard fucking smashed. Admittedly, one of those games was on Shen, but like Ornn just feels like the safe bet. Like, it just feels like eventually Ornn is relevant, and we have yet to see an Ornn just get absolutely fucking like hard destroyed to the point where the champion isn't relevant.
The thing is, its lane phase is so good, its team fights is so good, and like it always gives you engaged. So Ornn is like the Exodia of your top lane champ. It's like, you know, if enemy team picks Ornn and your top laner says like pick me Camille, and then you hear first blood, enemy Ornn has killed your Camille, you know the game's lost. And that happened a couple times, Ornn getting solo kills and stuff like this. He buys ruby crystals and it's just over. So I mean the Twitch thing is really weird. I think that if someone team picks Malphite or something, that Twitch can't play. But Sion was kind of working with the lane swap things, looks really messy. Doesn't really do Ornn's job as well, but I think Ornn should be like first pick in my opinion.
It feels like teams are like changing up. I don't know. There's like two different metas. There's like the standard meta that I think that we saw for most of the year, which is like weak side top laners where you have like your big beefy boys up top with like your Scions and your Ornns. And now we've like suddenly swapped to like bruisers. And now a lot of teams that weren't playing through top side are now being exposed of how poorly they can't play through top side. And they just keep trying to ram it down. Like, I think teams like Mad Lions and LGD, I think, would find a lot more success if they went back to like the basics of put your top laner on like a giant meatball, put your jungler on a champion that they're super comfortable with. In the case of Shadow, it's like the Lee Sin. In the case of Peanut, like his Kindred, his Nidalee, his Graves, things like that. Like, just run a traditional, like, stop with the Lucian, just try to run a traditional mage in the mid lane, because you don't need to unlock the AP mid laners unless, I don't know, maybe you want to go for the Nidalee Lucian, and then like your utility bots, or if you want to play the Twitch, like, that's fine. It's not like it's being punished anyway. But I don't know. I think people are trying to like change the read on the meta when like Team Liquid has already shown like just play your style and be super consistent. Right now we see teams like reaching out of the box and then also doing it poorly and then also underperforming on an individual perspective.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're LGD and you draft like these, because I feel like both of LGD's drafts, especially the Lucian one, they're getting hard outscaled. Like, you're playing like Lucian into Orianna, like it was the enemy team at Ornn both times, so you're getting outscaled no matter what. And then you're the slow team, and then you do nothing. Like, I think in the PSG game, he got Peanut got 2 dragons, a Herald, he got a top dive off, and that was it. And then the game just stalled for 25 minutes. Team fights come around, and Orianna wins with Ornn. I don't know. This Orianna Ornn combo is LGG's kryptonite. I think just pick one of them, ban one of them, and just please play a little bit more scaling. Because why not play scaling if you're against Playins teams, right? It's not like they're gonna completely smash you, because you should be able to sustain the laning phases pretty well. So they should play way more scaling.
Yeah, I'm just sad about like the way, like, I understand that team compositions with like bruiser top, carry jungler, you know, like whatever, understand, especially like with the Renekton in Italy, that you can just have a really strong top side, really solid mid laner, especially with like Lucian there. You're just like fucking dominating top side. But then anytime one of these teams plays that composition and they don't fucking hard smash early game, Like you see the opposite side of the coin, right? Which is just like how utterly impossible it is for them to fucking do anything against like an Ornn and a traditional AD carry. It's like, what? There's peel for an Ashe? We never could have imagined peeling for a fucking Ashe before, or for this Twitch. Because these like every time we see a Twitch, there's like on a composition. Not every time. Like Liquid's been good about pairing it with something defensive, but we've seen Twitch paired with literally like no defensive options at all, just like super aggressive top laner, and he just gets popped every time.
And I also think that so like, don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying like people should absolutely be playing like the tanks, like that's what the meta should be, but I think for the teams that are struggling, they are struggling because they're trying to play outside of their comfort zone and their style, and they need to go back to playing the tanks into like the top lane and creating space for their AD carries. Like Mad Lions, weak side top laner was kind of like the joke that we also went with Rogue, like a Rome and Finn often played for like the 5v5 in their teams, and it was really about like their bot lanes. And I think trying to switch that up isn't working for them. This isn't me being like, you know, when Zoom takes the stage or when like Nuguri takes the stage, then I want to see them on Ornn, otherwise they're terrible meta. No, it's like other teams will be able to play carry top style, but like don't do it now in a best of one when you're like already this far down. Just play what you know.
Yeah, I think it comes down to scrims as well. Maybe they had success in scrims. Maybe the scrims gave them some fake data on how they should play the game, and then you go on stage, the game's even at 30 minutes, then you realize, oh, we're kind of outscaled. And then you can't win the fights. I like that you took off the LGD jacket and now you have a Rainbow 7 t-shirt.
I just happen to be rolling in Playins team merch this time around. It's totally unintentional. I bought this Rainbow 7 jersey like 2 years ago. It got to me like last year because it took so long to get, but yeah,
it's a sick jersey.
That's mostly why I bought it, because at the time Rainbow 7 weren't playing that hot. But yeah, it's vaporwave as hell. You know, you got to respect the good designs. It's not all just like mono black whatever, like 90% of the jerseys in esports. So.
Oh my god, we need to have a conversation, because people keep saying like, this jersey has a great design. I keep reading Fion's tweets about like the LPL jersey specifically, when JDG literally looked like a plate of bacon. I'm like, what is that?
Wait, hold on, that is clean marbled beef.
No, wait, they look like bacon.
That is the highest end Wagyu. You know, like they are in the deep, like the best part, like they're at the best Chinese hot pot, or the best fucking Korean barbecue. Who cares? But there's marbling on that meat, Frosco. Don't call it bacon. Have some respect for the jersey. It's high class. I feel you, but like I feel like the other team that I think we have to hit, and then I want to talk a little bit about the format, because the format's fucking hilarious, by the way. If you don't know, it's pretty you have to really suck to get eliminated without playing a best of 5. Really have to suck.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, LGD ready to go. But Matt is the other side, right? And like Frosco, you've already called up, you wish that they would play a bit more standard, some scaling options, a bit safer overall. But like, why does it look so utterly shit? Like, obviously Arma was very good today, but also Rome's just been getting like absolutely trashed. And even in LEC, we knew he was a weak side top laner, but I figured he could like hold his own and not like actually just bleed out on the rift in front of us.
I didn't know if Caedrel wanted to go here first. I was waiting.
Oh.
No, I can pick it up.
Go first.
So I think that there's like a couple of issues. I think one, and the coaching staff have come out on Twitter, Mac and Peter have made like some pretty public statements that like this one's on them. And I do agree that I think that there are big, clear drafting issues, but there are also really big execution issues. It's not like their draft didn't have any win conditions. It just felt like they had narrow ones and weren't the best suited for the compositions that they were playing or for the skill sets of their players. But even when they tried to do those win conditions, they really flopped hard on an individual level. And people will grab hold of like Shadow and Arome in particular, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but it is just like, it is big yikes. And now, the conversation comes, could you have predicted this on a Mad Lions that was slumping onto the end of their split, that, had showed champion pool issues in the jungle as a team full of rookies who are now playing on like the biggest stage? Like, there's probably an argument for that, but I am like, I always give like a room of, the team might suffer, but if we see the team on their best day, I am honestly shocked at how poorly the Mad Lions have played. Like, just shocked.
Yeah, I mean, Shadow, like you said, I think his first ever game that they won, I think he was running it down and he won. I don't know if he deserved to win it, but he won it. And then the next Evelyn game was even worse, and the Hecarim game as well just felt like he was doing nothing. I think the two things that I noticed good for Mad Lions so far was, I think Humanoid's won every laning phase so far. I think in lane he's doing so well. Yeah, honestly, I think he's doing so well. Even in the INTZ game when he was playing Lucian, I think, and Evelyn was just AFK farming, and they kept full mining him in mid. He was still winning the lane. I think he's been really good, and Carzy as well in lane phase has also been really good. But outside of lane phase, there's just no connection. There's no jungle support coming together. There's no setup in team fights. I mean, the only real team fights they had was in the Liquid game. But even in that game, you have Evelynn, so you want to play over side, you can't because they have TF Mordekaiser. So if you go bot on a Mordekaiser, he'll ult you and kill you, or TF will come. So the draft was horrible, I think, for Evelynn. If you're going to 1-2 Evelynn and play over side, and then you give them Mordekaiser on 4-5, it doesn't make much sense. But then the champion pools that they're working with in top jungle, I think, are really bad, for me at least. Like, Orome has shown his Camille, Mordekaiser, Renekton, but he doesn't play Ornn. His only tank he really plays, from what I've seen, is Maokai, kind of. So that kind of sucks if you're playing carry jungle, carry top. And then Shadow doesn't play any tank junglers, so he can't facilitate having a carry top. Like, Shadow's champion pool is kind of like Lilia, Lee Sin, and then it just falls off into Hecarim, Evelynn, which just look kind of grief. So there's no adaptation from their top jungle to be able to help each other out, so they just bleed out. While their solo lanes might step up a little bit, Humanoid's winning, Carzy ahead in CS, but then when it comes to team fights, just the team fights aren't good with the draft, I think.
Yeah, and I see like discussion in the chat, and like, don't get me wrong, Supermassive played fucking well. That team is really good. Alongside TL and Supermassive, I think they're the two best teams right now, and it's really hard for me to say which one's better. I think I'm actually leaning towards Supermassive, but I think that's also just because the caliber of opponents that TL have had, I don't rate as highly as watching Supermassive just like hard flex on people and just like the macro performance that we've seen from them. But we're just talking about Mad Lions right now because we saw them struggle in all three of their games, not just getting stomped by the two best teams right now in Playins, which are TL and Supermassive, but also in their first game against INTZ, like really hard struggle, even though they won that game.
Yeah, and INTZ, of course, is a team who's 0-3, right? And like has not looked like they've had their shit together at all. And that's the closest game that they played, right? Was against Mad. And that's not a good look for LEC 4th seed. And that's like the big thing to me, is right? It's like, as great as Supermassive is, like, you always expect the TCL to do well in plans, but you never expect the major regions in this case, like Mad and LGD, to perform so poorly. So that's what this has really caught me off guard. China, I can believe, because we've seen China just like implode. We've also seen LGD specifically just implode. So, you know, history repeats itself. But for Mad, it's like, they were the creative team. It's a new patch. They've got so much time to prepare. They had good infrastructure and what felt like mental health support, which was honestly my biggest concern for any team heading into like a 14-day quarantine and pure isolation. Like that would fucking kill me. I would be insta-depressed. So like, I thought for sure the things that I was most scared about, Mad Lions would actually be the team with the best answers to solve that. And like, I don't know about the status of like the team's like mental well-being, but the execution on stage is really, really abysmal, as you said. And that's so has caught me off guard.
That's the thing. I was going to chime in as well and just say, like, the stage thing, it is, everything's kind of pointing towards stage being a factor in Mad Lions play, even though it might be something that is deniable. I think that if you look at their history throughout the year, it's like the start of the year on stage, they were kind of like a 6th, 7th place team, and then all of a sudden they got the 3rd in Spring Split with online, then they got 2nd in regular split online, they did pretty well in playoffs online, and then they come back to stage and it's like, not great play. I mean, Shadow, especially in my eyes, has not been playing good. Kaiser's been making mechanical mistakes in the first sort of 15 minutes, and I think that they do have a good coaching staff. They did get into the draft a couple times. Their meta read is not the best, so loads of these factors are just kind of holding them back. But I think individually they're still good. I just need them to come together more. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the thing is there's like a list of excuses you can go for if you're Mad, right? And like I think all of them, like, they could all be bullshit, but they could all equally be totally fair, which is like lack of stage time, new, like new environment, adjusting to a new patch, like, you know, individual players, you know, like, who knows? Like, what is it, like, Froskurinn, you can't handle Chinese food very well. Like, the oil makes your stomach upset. Like, if you told me that Shadow's stomach was just, which would be surprising as an Italian and Chinese dual citizen, but, you know, if you told me that, like, absolutely fucked his stomach and he was sick, I would be like, yeah, okay, that seems reasonable. So there's reasons that they can grasp at, but none of it feels like enough to me. But maybe that's unfair, because it is still 4 rookies on the world stage, right? And Humanoid was a world's rookie last year. So this is still new territory. So it's like totally plausible that they're like, even if they're comfortable on stage, that they're just not comfortable on a world stage. But fuck, I don't want that to be the answer. 'Cause that's like the shittiest cop-out ever. Like, it's fair, but it feels so shit.
Well, like, you can always just say that the analysis is right now that there's macro problems, execution problems, and meta and draft read problems. And when you have all four of those, you're probably going to have a bad time. Like, looking across to the other side, because I do want to get praise to TL and Supermassive. And I see you chat. I see you're always like, unicorns of love, like PSG. Well, maybe less PSG, but like, let's talk about like those three teams, like the trifecta right now of UOL, Supermassive, and TL. What I think is really interesting about TL is that mechanically they are playing out of their minds well right now. It's just like, it is crisp, it is perfect. Jensen in particular, especially on like the dumpstering, the smacking that he just gave Tally on the edge of those Orianna ultimates every single time. Impact, especially in his Mordekaiser game against Mad Lions. Tactical, I expected to have great mechanical performance. Core JJ I already knew, but like the mechanics are tight right now. No one is having any sort of clangers. And the reason why I still feel like I'm kind of tied between Supermassive and TL and kind of leaning towards Supermassive is just that I haven't gotten to see TL really like flex some of their reactive creativity. Like, I think Spawn said it really well, that they're a really good set play team and they're performing really well mechanically, and how they're just like brute forcing their opponents is not necessarily through outsmarting them. It's like they get massive leads because, you know, Impact finds a solo kill on a top laner, or Jensen finds a solo kill on a mid laner, and then like Brox is able to do whatever he wants. But if you like watch Brox's pathing, he's on Graves, and instead of hard farming, he's able to just like sit in lanes, and because his laners are winning just off of like the raw, just basically like punching down on their opponent, suddenly Brox is running around at like 5-0 on Graves, and he's not punished for not farming. And so I think that there's still, you know, would TL be able to do that against the teams that, you know, the opponents that they have in group stage? I don't know. I think that there's a good chance that they look really good. Whereas like when I watch Supermassive win, I feel like I'm seeing a bit more creativity, but like maybe when Supermassive and TL show up, like TL's still in top mechanical form and the difference is pretty big, but I don't know. Supermassive also mechanically to me look really good. And then Unicorns of Love, they flip on Herald every single time, and while mechanically they're super cool, they macro-wise do make some pretty key mistakes, and teams like Supermassive and TL in their current form will absolutely punish UOL for that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like let's hold on to UOL for a second, because we're gonna see them, I think, finish their group stage run tomorrow. But I do want to hit the Supermassive team, because like that's the matchup that everyone's fucking waiting for, right? Because those are the two teams that have like looked the best. Because obviously, like anytime anyone sees a UOL game, they'll be like, are they good? It is unclear to me, based on the amount of coin flipping and random shit that I'm seeing on my screen, if this is a good team or not. So let's like hold that for a second. But just like, Caedrel, your read on the Supermassive versus like TL matchup, what do you think is like the most important factor there? Do you feel the same as Frost, that like there's a lot of questions that TL haven't answered yet, in the sense that like Brox is getting away with some shit that maybe he shouldn't, just because his laners are so good?
I think all three of the teams in general have holes in them, and there's really big weaknesses. And if whoever can exploit the weaknesses more will probably come out on top. So, for example, from my opinion, I think TL's biggest weakness is the champion pool. Still, I think Broxa, if you have to ban, if one team bans Graves and you have to first pick Lee Sin, or you have to first pick Graves in your drafts, then your jungle champ pool sucks, and that's a fact. And then Impact is just playing Ornn Mordekaiser again still, so nothing's really changed there either. So I think their top jungle picks are still not good. I think TL's bot lane is really good. I think Jensen is playing super good as well, but that's the biggest thing I'd hit. If they can shut down top jungle in draft, I think Kakao and Armut looked super good today, especially Armut. He was like 7-0 on Wukong, 10-0 on Shen, getting 1v5 Dove, chilling under his tower, emoting them and everything. He was giving them the whole shebang. So I think Supermassive's main weakness is if they don't get ahead, or if they don't punish mistakes and the game's even, maybe they don't take the game so well, because in the finals that was kind of the case. They need to have a lead, and I think if they can make plays happen, which Kakao has shown he's not really afraid to do, and just leave Broxa to his AFK farming duties sometimes, then they should be good. But I'm expecting, now that TL's kind of shown their hand, and they've said, well, we've played 2 games already, and we've shown that we don't really play anything different to what we played in playoffs, so if they ban out like Lee Sin, Graves and first pick Nidalee, I'm not really sure what Broxa is going to do about it. Maybe Karthus?
Yeah, I think Caedrel's read is correct there on targeting out Broxa. I'm kind of on the fence about Impact, because I know that like his Shen and his Gangplank are also really good, so I think it's almost like wasted if you try to throw pinching at impact to try to punish him, especially when the way that he's performing. But I think that if any team's going to take down TL, it's attacking them in the jungle, making sure that you get a better jungle matchup, and then you have to skill check how well their individual players are playing right now and make sure that you have a late game insurance policy that can scale with the team fighting prowess that Tactical has shown. I've been super impressed by Tactical and Core JJ.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I completely agree. I just think if you look at him across the board, like he was Ornn Mordekaiser one trick in LCS, and then if because I know Armut really likes split pushers. He's really good at Fiora, Jax, stuff like this, as well as tanks, as well as carries. He's so flexible. So if they can pinch impact to the point where they force him on something that Armut can counter it hard enough, while having a first pick prio jungle, I think through top jungle they can shut the game down. Because I don't think Tactical, obviously with his role, is not gonna be able to do much for the first 20 minutes, but he'll probably pop off in fights. So if they can deal with top jungle and they can use that pressure towards mid and shut down Jensen and they can control top side, I think that's how Supermassive needs to win the game. I don't think they should target any bot bans, anything like this. It's either 2 jungle bans, first pick Nidalee or something like this, and then try to shut out top in the 4-5 because Impact normally does go 4-5. So yeah.
I actually don't know who has side selection, but I think that's going to be pretty important because, like, in this situation, it sounds like red side's pretty important potentially for counter on top side. And like bot lane to me, like in the past, I might have been skeptical, but I've watched Zeitnot and Snowflower for so many fucking years now that it just feels like those dudes they're not gonna be the reason. Like it would take a lot of jungle pressure from Broxa, which I just don't think you're gonna get if he's playing Graves. You know, maybe if you get it on his Lee Sin to like actually shut that bot lane down. And it just feels like maybe I'm wrong in this, but just bot lane it can be super important, but it hasn't felt super important compared to topside. Topside just feels infinitely more important in this tournament so far than the bot lane. And I guess that's just Ashe, Senna, even Twitch, right? People just leave them alone for the most part until mid game. So bot lane is it's sad, but I just feel like bot lane is not as relevant early at least.
The whole thing with top pressure, I think the reason top pressure is so important is, first of all, you can do early heralds without having to stop your bot. But I think going mid game, late game, the way that it works is like if I have a winning split pusher, I can push the sides and move. And your split pusher has a choice. Or like an Ornn, whatever, he's under tower tier 2. Do I give up my wave, join my team mid so I can match the enemy top because he has pressure, and then drop gold bot, and just so I can be there for the 5v5 ARAM? Or do I just catch the wave on the tower and then hope my team doesn't get engaged on? So that's basically how I think the play-in games have been working out. It's either they get the top laners with prio with sort of like leads in the early to mid game. They're always first on objectives, and they either have to force them to TP. And all these small like domino effects come into play with this thing. Like if you have to TP to a Drake, then 1 minute later you're going to be under loads of Nash pressure. You're going to drop lots of side waves. So that's why these champions like Camille can like really take over, I think. So I mean, if Impact blinds something like Mordekaiser or something, and then Armut goes for a Jax, I think that's something that could really help them. But I think taking away Ornn is something they should definitely do, because I know both of them really like Ornn, and I think it's just too fucking OP right now.
I also think it works really well, obviously, with a lot of the AD carries that get powerful. And like you said, Drakos, like top lane feels a bit more volatile, especially not just in the individual like skill difference between some of the top laners that I think is more exasperated than the skill difference between the individual bot laners, but also that champion pool that you're working with to then punish, because you can just go for like the Ashe, the Sennas, even Twitch is like getting free lanes. But like having Ornn or having a proficient top laner, if you don't decide to go for like the 1-4 and you do just ARAM it, like you have to have something that creates good zone control and have a top laner that is good enough to create zone control to give you time for your Twitch or whatever, or your Ashe to start popping off. And I think we are seeing a pretty big difference between teams' abilities to 5v5, especially because I agree with Caedrel. I feel like we're seeing a lot of games flipped around, either really bad fights or like massive snowballs where like a Camille gets ahead and just like lands on someone. The fight's never fair because someone gets popped at the very beginning.
Yeah, you mentioned jungle diff at the start, but I feel like it's jungle diff, top diff. We haven't seen a ton of mid diff games. I feel like Humanoid had one, Jensen had one, but I think for the most part it's been like top. Jungle
Tally was definitely mid-gapped.
It was like 60 CS down at 15 minutes.
Tally
that was brutal.
Tally was mid-gapped, and whoever INTZ mid laner whose name I'm blanking on definitely got mid-gapped by Humanoid. That was fucking absolutely brutal to watch. Real quick before we talk about UOL, who's a team that I think definitely deserves a lot of attention given their recent success. I want to talk a little bit about the format. Just recap for anyone who's watching.
I can go to standings.
Yeah, so if you want to bring up standings. So for those of you who do not know how the playoffs format or the play-ins format works, it is different this year. So real quick, if you are first in the group after your single round robin, you auto qualify to group stage. If you are fifth, you are eliminated. 4 through 2 will all get a chance to play. So how it works is in Group A, 4 and 3, both from Group A will play each other. In Group B, 4 and 3 will play each other. The winner of both of those best of fives will play the opposite group's second seed. if that makes sense. And
So,
then the winner of
example.
that best of 5 will go through.
In the current standings on your screen, that would mean that Legacy and Mad Lions would play a best of 5, and whoever won from that would play PSG Talon, whereas V3 and Rainbow 7 would play a best of 5, and then whoever won that would, in this graphic, play Team Liquid.
And so for those of you who are like, well, why this format? The shitty thing about this format is because we've dropped teams, obviously, like the single round robin for group stage kind of sucks. It does. The good thing about it is that most teams in Playins are going to get the chance at a best of 5, which historically wasn't true. Because remember, we used to be on a 3-group system, and it was like pretty much only 1 or 2 who got any chances to do anything. The other downside is like there is a chance that because it's single round robin best of 1, that like we aren't seeing it this year, but if we keep this format, one of the weaknesses could be like some team could just show up and just like hard smurf on people in 5-0, but actually be total dog shit in best of 5s, and that would be enough to get them to groups, which would suck. Like it does kind of suck that they qualify to groups without playing a best of 5, but also
I don't know. I think this format is hype.
I feel like I want to see the first seed play a fucking best of 5, though. Maybe wrong.
Mad Lions is sandbagging on purpose so they can get like 10 to 15 games for the good group stage.
And that's the important thing to fucking know, right? Is that like even though Mad Lions, we all admit looks like a dumpster fire, INTZ is worse. So they're gonna get to play a best of 5. They're gonna get to fight for their life.
Literally saved by Brazil right now. Just like hard boosting.
Peter Dunn is like
Peter Dunn's been PayPaling them.
Yeah.
He's been training. Oh my God, he's been training them for this for years. He went back. He coached the team. He saw this, projected it in the future.
Like galactical plan.
He's like, I know exactly what Riot are going to do in 2020 for the format. Don't ask me how I know. And he said, all you need to do is beat Brazil. And they're like, why are we spending weeks of LEC for that? Should be prepping for Schalke or for playoffs. Just fucking prepping for INTZ. He's like, you'll understand. Like,
it all makes sense.
It's the absolute 5-in from Peter Dunn. But yeah, basically like only one team is going to be knocked out, right? And for Group B, it's kind of up in the air. Obviously, people are probably going to... LGD looks like the biggest pile. But like, come on. Like, is LGD really going to like... Are they going to lose every game? That would be pretty surprising. But obviously, like...
Would it be surprising?
But imagine LGD went 0-4 and they just got knocked out of Worlds. That would be mind-blowing.
I cannot wait for LGD to just eat total shit in the round robin, but like somehow still make second place, and then Mad Lions to just end up against LGD in a best of 5, and then LPL just like one last like FU to Europe as like a drive-by.
Yo,
that would be crazy.
But there's 2 situations, both of which are hilarious, right? One is just the general best of 5 between LGD and Mad, the 2 biggest disappointments so far. It's literally the battle for who gets the LGD award. Is it LGD or Mad Lions? Like, that's literally what that best of 5 decides. But it would be so fucking funny if both these teams are just absolute shithouses, right? They play against each other, and then the first international best of 5 we win against China in like the last 2 or 3 years.
I would actually fight to
LGD
cast
versus
that.
Mad and Playins. I would... We'll
Dracos,
probably
you
have
and
to
I,
quadcast. Like, we're gonna need to kill Vedius, or we're gonna like. I don't know how we get that. I don't know how we get
Listen,
that.
I live next to a stairwell. We leave the house at the same time. It's just to the left. I'll just throw him down.
Oops.
Oops.
But because LGD is 0-2, that means they can't finish first realistically.
They're
they're definitely gonna play a best of 5 no matter what, or they're out.
Yeah.
So we'll say likely they're playing a best of 5.
It's about who they take down with them.
Oh man, it
and
might
likely
be mad
they're
actually.
not. This is what's actually fucked, is that Supermassive and Team Liquid are actually like sweating fucking bullets right now. Because if you get first, you qualify. But if you get second, and we assume that LGD is just absolutely like they're going to get their shit together for best of 5s, you have to play LGD for your spot in your groups. Because there's no way that like maybe there is a way, but it doesn't really feel like they're going to get second seed, right? So no, whoever comes out of Group B is gonna play the loser of Team Liquid and Supermassive.
Wait, when do Supermassive and TL play? How early on is it in the day? Because if it's like the first game, oh my God. Okay, I'm not saying that this would happen, but
you could sandbag it.
You lost that game. You're like, I think we're just gonna play a little bit of.
You're like, I'm gonna need to drop down to 3rd seed real quick. Don't mind me. Fuck. Yeah, they're not going to do that. Everyone's a professional. That never happens.
But Mad would need to finish second because LGD can't make it, I think. And then...
No, if you finish 3-4, you can't play against the other groups 3-4, right? So if Mad finish 3-4 and they win, they're probably playing against Talon or Unicorns.
Yeah, exactly. So they need to finish second for LGD to be able to snipe them. Or LGD needs to finish second. Okay, so
again,
that means Supermassive or Liquid has to lose 2 games.
How fucking disappointing would it be if TL did finish second and then they got sniped by LGD?
That would be so funny.
Oh my god, it'd be so funny. It's funny no matter who it happens to. That's the
I
best
just
part.
want
Like,
LGD
obviously,
to
it's
ruin
extra
someone's
funny.
day.
Just send back the whole tournament, then just ruin someone's day. That's exactly what I want to see too.
It's the Dream Crush bracket. I talk about it. Anytime you have like a Swiss format and you're like, there's like, once you're like 0-3, you're out of a Swiss format, right? For the most part. But the second you're in 0-2, you're in the Dream Crush bracket. You're not there to win. Highly unlikely you'll win. But every person you beat, you're killing. They're out of the tournament. So that's what you're playing for. LGD are in the Dream Crush bracket. It's not about winning. It's about dragging other people down with you. It's just pure pettiness and spite that is going to keep them alive in this tournament.
In all
Can't wait to see the
realness, right
outcome.
now, LGD are they're sweating bullets right now because the lashback from the LPL fan base is swift and it is powerful. And oh my god, there is definitely a gun held to LGD's head right now. They're like, we will not lose, we will not lose, we will not lose. I am,
Don't get W.
I will be really shocked if LGD continue down the downward spiral that they're currently on. I think that we're going to see a different side of them tomorrow.
Yeah, the belt is definitely out, folks. The belt, Kona might not be there, but the belt is out. They're ready to go. Anywho, that's the format. Like, obviously the format is crazy, but on the opposite side, we've already talked a lot about Group A. Group B is mostly the LGD story. Let's be honest. As cool as everything else is, it's mostly the LGD story. But right behind the LGD story in terms of interestingness is none other than the Unicorns of Love. It's chaotic. It's hard to watch. I think if you aren't very knowledgeable about League of Legends, it's when you watch games like this or G2 in 2019, it's really hard to tell like how much of this is skill and how much of this is just like flipping the fucking coin. So break it down for me, team. How much of this is skill and how much of this is flipping the fucking
Unicorns
coin?
of Love are ridiculously talented individually. I think like a lot of the time there's always a discussion when it comes to play-ins that there's like a really big gap between emerging regions and major regions in terms of just individual mechanical prowess and ability, and I do not think that exists for Unicorns of Love. I think that these guys, I believe they're challenger or at least grandmaster on the Chinese super server right now, so like they're definitely like putting in the time right now to put down the grind, and I think mechanically they can compete with any of the major region players in the play-ins right now, and groups should be the bare minimum expectation for them. Like, they're that good. My issue with U of L is some of their macro decisions because they haven't really been tested on a macro ability in their domestic region. No one is close to them in the LCL except for Gambit sometimes, and even then they still just punch down, which means that UOL are incredibly good at snowballing. When they get a snowball, they're so dominant about it because that's basically been their entire history in the LCL. But when it's more even footing and when you have to outthink a team or be more consistent on making the correct play when you're swapping for the Herald, when you're contesting X, Y, and Z, how you're setting up your vision, all of these, that's when UOL start to make really big holes, which is why I have them underneath Supermassive and TL, because those teams feel better at it, as well as being able to skill check UOL on individual mechanics. But that's not to say that UOL couldn't beat these teams. It's just that right now I haven't seen UOL, or I haven't seen the tape to prove that UOL are as smart or as consistent in their fundamentals as the other two.
I think Frosk nailed it, actually. I think that their fundamentals are shaky sometimes in terms of macro decisions. She's definitely right there. I think their heralds are a meme. I think sometimes they just start them randomly. But I feel like the way I see their playstyle is, I can't analyze it properly because I feel like their macro is a bit shaky sometimes. But the way I see it is, they will flip a coin, and they will flip the coin, but it'll be an unfair coin. It'll be like 60-40 to them because they're the ones just flipping it and starting it on you. And if they win it, then the coin will go to 70-30, and they'll keep going like that for the rest of the game. But if they lose it, it'll go back to a 50-50, and then they'll just keep going at you and keep flipping it until they get the leads that they need. And then they just win through skirmishes, and I think you can see that kind of in their draft as well, obviously putting Orianna bots. That was probably not even expected from it. They're like, well, I could pick Cassin here and carry the game. And he was like, well, I can play Orianna bot. And he was like, yeah, let's flip it. And they just did it. And I mean, props, they executed really well. They had like a 1-3-1 comp. They had the Orianna mid for wave clear, Cassin and Camille side lanes, and they just kept collapsing and fighting. So there's theory behind their insanity, but it's mostly insanity, which I like.
This, to be fair, is actually really like the thing that I think is really cool about Unicorns of Love is I think it's like a match made in heaven. Both of these 5 players being under the Unicorns of Love banner, and then Sheepy coaching them. Because the thing that Sheepy was always really good at when he coached in EULCS, right, was like micro plays. Like UOL were notoriously the most shit team to scrim against because they take like an hour break between every fucking scrim. And it's because, like, learning this and from talking to the players, they would go into every team fight and talk about every micro detail. Sheepy is incredibly good about like training players and getting players to talk about like the most micro shit in skirmishes ever. And like that lines up perfectly with how these guys were already playing. They've always been like very good micro, very good team fighters when we've seen like this combination of players, especially the top side coming out of the LCL. So to me, it's like, it's fucking perfect. It also lines up with what we know from the Unicorns of Love in the ULCS, which was questionable macro. So to me, we now have the CIS/LCL version of the Unicorns of Love, and it's fucking spot on. You know, like you can't tell it's a fake. Like this is that fucking Louis Vuitton handbag that's just like flawlessly made. If you told me this UOL played in the LEC, I'd be like, yeah, I fucking believe it.
And
like,
their fashion is so good as well. The jerseys,
my
and
tracksuits,
the shoes as well. But it's true. Like it is a meme in the LEC. Like if you take too long in review, you're just classified as Unicorns of Love. Just ours.
I will say this, like, I was in charge of the prep document for Unicorns of Love, so I watched so many of their VODs, and one thing that I did notice is that because in this meta, at least, they kind of leave their bot lane on a little island, like, they don't really play through bot, they're much more of, like, a mid-top jungle-focused team. Gadget and Santos just get left to their own devices, and that means that Santas, like, we're so used to, or at least I'm used to watching like G2 and Fnatic pulling Hilly and Mickey to blitz onto mid lane and like moving their support around with the jungle. Santas doesn't really do that, at least not in this meta, hasn't shown it, and that means that their vision game can be really lacking. And so if their solo laners don't get super snowballed ahead, which in most games they do, then it's the solo laners using their kill pressure and forcing forward and allowing Ananasik to get vision down and like keep their vision game. If it's an even footing, because Santos doesn't unlock, he kind of like sits in the lane and hangs around his AD carry, or I guess in the lane swap he hangs with his top laner, then their vision lane or their vision game gets really lacking, but they still try to flip on Herald and Dragon, and then they're fighting at a disadvantage where they don't have vision and need to rely on their mechanics to outplay their opponents. So I think as they face harder teams that they can't just skill check, watch for how their vision game really fucks them when they set up for objectives, and watch that be the big punish for UOL. And I think that's kind of like the one point that is the target that they would really need to clean up if they want to make a deep run in the tournament.
I want to see what happens when they go against a team who won't take fights against them. Because like my assumption is anytime a team is really good at fighting or picking good fights, it's usually because they just know when their champions are strong and they probably fight around their item spikes really well, right? And I haven't watched nearly, like I've just watched the Playins footage that we've seen so far and historic footage. I haven't watched them much this year, so I'm curious. Is that a part of like the UOL puzzle? Like when we talk about the Herald coin flip, like is there a reason that they're flipping? Is it like we just finished fucking IE on whatever, like we can fight now, or is this legitimately just 100% coin flip?
No, sometimes I think they do it for really random reasons. I almost think that, and I don't know what's happening at coaching, but it almost seems to me it's like objectives, monster objectives. Yes, this is how I play the game. At 5 minutes, I need to be here and I need to make sure that I'm there and I must fight it at all costs. Because sometimes I'm like, you don't need to fight that. You have a farming jungler. You could just go and farm the jungle and give them the Herald. It wouldn't matter. But they're never punished for it because they always, I can't say that. They always slap their opponents around and then they get the Herald anyway.
The way I see it, it's kind of true. So like when you're setting up for neutrals, like especially Herald in the early game as a jungler, you're looking at lane push, you're looking at like, do you have your jungle item, you're looking at TP situation, support moving. But when I watch them do Heralds, it feels like if you're the other team and you see, oh, my support's missing, yeah, my support's roaming mid, yeah, my top laner has the push, I'm just gonna base here, it looks pretty good. And then you base and you're like, there's no way he's on Herald, right? It's the most cringe thing if he's on Herald right now. And then you're running to Herald and it's yet Herald's dead and you're just like, of course he was on Herald. It's that kind of play. That's what the UOL do. They just start it when you don't expect it, and then you're just like, oh, for fuck's sakes.
It's a beautiful thing. You know, we go back. How far do you want to go back? Albus Nox Luna in the infamous like 20-minute random fucking blast cone Barons. I love that, like, no matter, I mean, obviously the LCL
That
teams
Poppy
are all
and
gonna have their
Navia comp
distinct
will never be
identities, but there
beaten.
is overlap, and it's great overlap. That's all I'll say.
My one last thing on UOL, I talked with Sheepy briefly when I was preparing the prep document, and the thing that like really stuck out to me is he's basically like, get used to seeing unicorns. This is now their back-to-back Worlds appearance. They've retained the same roster over the course of the year. They're like clearly the best team in the LCL. He believes that they're the best team that the LCL has ever sent, which there's some pretty big shoes to fill, obviously with some of the previous representatives and some of the miracles that they've pulled off. But like, this should be a team that international fans will get to know more and more over time, hopefully, if we continue to have MSI at Worlds and continue to see like these guys grow, because they're also like super young and really hungry. So that's just really exciting. It almost feels like kind of the same hype and excitement that we felt around Vietnam now translating over to the LCL.
Yeah, fuck. I wish Vietnam was here, dude. That's so sad. Like, actually,
No,
how
dude,
much?
they're the
How much?
EU
No,
kryptonite,
Europe
man.
would actually
No.
just be dead.
Wait, maybe not though. Maybe that's what's wrong. Right? Maybe it's the fact that we're not witnessing them destroy people, us included. That's like holding Mad Lions back. Maybe that's like the final stroke in their anime protagonist arc. You know, that's the thing that pushes them over the edge, and Shadow just like snaps and is suddenly insane again. But yeah, more
I
likely than not,
actually
they'd
pictured it in my
fuck
head.
us, right? Like, okay, so maybe not the best idea. Is there anyone else like actually like? Obviously, every team has a story worth telling, but is like anyone else really worth talking about right now in the talk? Groups. We talked about Supermassive. We talked about TL. We talked about Mad Lions and LGG as the big disappointments. We talked about UOL. Like, are PSG Talon still on our radar, or is PSG Talon kind of just like?
I think they're a feast or famine team. Like, if they skill check their opponents, which you can in half of these Playins teams, then they're just gonna like continue to punch and beat you. But against other teams, they live fast, die young.
Yeah. They're gonna come out the ball swing, but if they don't get good leads or they make mistakes, just feels like, because if you're like a good coordinated team and you fall down like 2-3k gold, there's always ways to back in because you can just do coordinated plays and stuff. But it feels like for them it's like get an early game lead, win. Don't get an early game lead, lose. So that's just kind of how it works.
Who's pacing back and forth in your background, Caedrel? I thought you were alone
It's
in the house.
it's special. Yeah, he came here a couple weeks ago.
Hi, special.
Getting the family back together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think this is like simultaneously a banging plans, but also like I feel like now that INTZ are 0-3, that I'm like, all right, Group A is like pretty much figured out. Obviously, seeding's important, but we know the 4 teams that are going to be like probably playing in best, or the 3 teams that are probably playing in best of 5s, and Group B's a hot mess. You guys have any like bold predictions? UOL out first seed feels like the safest bet, but is there any bold predictions there? What have you got? What have you got for me?
I mean, I wasn't high on the V3 hype train. I'm kind of curious what Caedrel thinks now that you've seen.
I'm still on it.
Caedrel, you were on the
still on it.
fucking V3
I'm still on
hype
it.
train. Dude, this happens every year. This Vedius does this shit too, where he's just like, fucking Rampage are great. He's like, I watch their games and they're geniuses. And then they show up on stage and they're just like, what's with the V3 hype train?
I wouldn't go as far as to say they're geniuses. I mean, I'm sad that Lilia is permabanned in this tournament because Boogie is the best Lilia in Playins probably. And I think Archer is definitely top 3 AD carries in Playins. From what I've seen, at least, he looks so crazy good. Like, even in team fights, he does the most insane mechanical plays, like flashing the smallest particle abilities just to get more damage out. It was crazy. There was loads of good team fights. Anyway, I think they against their game today, they just like against UOL, they just swapped with a Caitlyn because they had a Scion, and then you have Caitlyn into Orianna, when you should just stomp that lane. But I think they shouldn't have swapped 100 times and given first blood. I feel like that's kind of how UOL got ahead, and then Cassidy, just took over with this level 16. But I still believe in them. Maybe their game 1 wasn't super convincing. I mean, they won like with a handy lead, but they didn't end it so fast. And then the game versus UOL, I think they just made horrible decisions. But I'm still on that train.
I mean, I think that it's pretty reasonable. I mean, they're 1-1 right now, right? And they're gonna play 2 games tomorrow, so it's pretty reasonable to have them in for best of 5s. But do you have faith in them in best of 5s when you watch their domestic tape? Like, were you impressed by their best of 5 strategy, or did they just raffle stomp?
They were good at adapting against what their enemies kept throwing at them. And I mean, there was the other team just kept throwing this combo of Nico, Shen, Nidalee at them, and eventually after losing to it twice, they decided to ban it. So that was a good trial, and then they won. So good job to them.
They've shown draft adaptation. They've
shown draft adaptation. They have decent jump pools, I think. Not bad. I think compared to other teams, they're in a good spot. I think it's hard to say because you always have to judge it based on their opponents. So that's why it's kind of hard to judge playing teams in general, right? Apart from the major regions, you look at like the minor regions, you could say like, well, they look strong, they stomped their region, but how good is their region? So I don't think Japan is the strongest region, but I think them as a team look pretty solid mechanically and individually. So I'm still on their train. They're 1-1, so they might make it to the best of 5s, as long as LGD keeps griefing it. So yeah.
God bless LGD. Come on, there's more resting on your shoulders than just the rage of. You could make all of the LJL fans happy. You might get death threats from the LPL fans, but that's what it is. LGD. You gotta weigh it in your hands. What's more important to you?
This happens all the time with so many different LPL teams that like shit hits the fan and then suddenly like the fire is lit under their ass and then they come out in, true form, if you will, or at least best form that they have. And so I don't know. I have a feeling that LGD will not lose to V3.
Nope. It's the first game.
Good.
It's the first game tomorrow, and it's gonna be an anime storyline. It's gonna be like LGD is gonna have a lead, and it's gonna be like an Omaewa Shinderu moment, and then they're just gonna ace them and get Baron. That's what I'm saying.
And then V3 will run it back. That's your prediction?
Yeah, they're gonna go 2-1 after game 1 tomorrow.
Well, yeah, they're 2-1. That's it. That's like all you need, right? Because at that point,
Yeah.
LGD's 0-3. So unless they
Ship
drag
it.
someone
They're
else
gonna
down
win
to
tomorrow. I can feel it.
feel it in
They've
your
got the
bones,
power of
alright.
God and anime on their side.
Oh
I
my
feel
god,
it, man.
dude.
I got a couple
feel
memes in there.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel like people gotta stop saying that the LJL teams are just anime. That's like all people have. They're like, we don't watch the region, but we know Japan equals anime. I feel like that's low key fucked up. But
No, that's
I
serious though.
respect
I
the
think
meme.
they'll win. I think they'll win.
Well, shit, there it is. Froskurinn,
What?
we had a player of the day
Oh,
today.
yeah.
Now, there were a lot of choices. It was a pretty tight race between No Man's and our final player of the day, but it is none other than Armut,
Bum, ba, da, bum.
a.k.a. Pear, I believe.
He didn't die today.
He didn't die today.
Nope.
Absolute
Wait, let me
fucking
work it out.
smurfer.
27.
He was 13-0-0. Is that what, no,
I
No,
think
he was
13-0-0.
10-0-6. Yeah.
his lane mechanics were out of control. His setup for team fights. I think this guy was an absolute smurf, and we had like some real big smurfs today, including No Man's. But like No Man's had like one pop off moment. I feel like Arma had like a ton of pop off moments. This guy
Yeah.
is super impressive.
This man start to finish carried 2 games. Like let's be honest. Like don't get me wrong, No Man's like that Cassidy game was sick. That one play that everyone's gonna remember forever, where he just like baits at Galio. I was like, why isn't he using empowered recall? Because that motherfucker's 5-head as hell. Like he is baiting that man for years for the final kill moment. But then yeah, Arma just smashing lane, winning Shen versus Renekton, which like yeah, like obviously Shen does a lot of positive interactions in the kit there, but rarely do we see it be that absolutely one-sided. And then crashing a Rome, which I will still say is an impressive feat, despite the fact that so far it has been par for the course. So yeah.
And he did get counterpicked on his Wukong. Mordekaiser Wukong, that matchup is like
I remember.
Wukong can win early, but if Mordekaiser gets 1 or 2 items and Wukong, even if Wukong has like 3 or 4, Mordekaiser always wins when he presses R. So, I mean, the fact that he went 7-0.
What was funny is I think the first time we saw that matchup in LEC Summer, it was a Rome playing Wukong into Wonders Mordekaiser, and I just remember him getting just pulled back when he tried to clone out, just getting one fucking Q to the face and just being instantly dead. So I was pretty convinced that was going to be like a pretty, yeah. But then, yeah, it should be.
Yeah,
By the end of the game,
31.
it felt like Arome was ulting Wukong, and as he was going down, he was like, "No, please, I want out."
I just feel like
he takes him to the octagon. He's the one that wants out first.
I know, right?
Can you ult the clone?
And no, I think it cancels it. It puts your ult on cooldown, but it cancels it.
Because that's the fucking like absolute BM solo queue play. It's like it's the clone and you fucking ult it just to save yourself. You're like, I just need 5 seconds to stay.
What are you gonna go to the octagon with the clone for 8 seconds or something?
You're like, I
Just
can win this
stand there
1v1.
looking at it.
Just stand there looking. You're safe.
He's telling
So
us,
the
he was
phrase-
like, "Guys, sorry, I just messed up. I grabbed the wrong one. Sorry, my bad."
The funnest
Perfectly
interaction
safe.
is when you have Mordekaiser Silas in the same game, and Mordekaiser ults someone, and Silas takes Mordekaiser ult just before and ults someone too, and it's a 2v2 in the octagon. That's the best thing ever.
Do they go to the same octagon?
Yeah.
No, wait, they do?
Yeah, they do. They
That's
go to the same
fucking
place.
intense.
Same octagon? I
Yeah.
didn't fucking know that. That's
It's
fucking
crazy.
sick.
It's so fun to watch. Yeah.
Yo. Shout out to Nexus Blitz, by the way. We need more Nexus
That
Blitz
would be
in the world.
so fucking baller if you saw that your 80 carry got fucking sucked down and you're like, "I'm coming, bro."
I'm coming in!
Bro, that's what we
dropping
need tomorrow
in!
for V3 versus fucking LGD. We need a Silas more like obviously we're gonna have Silas in the mid lane for some counter pick on some shit, and then you're gonna have Mordekaiser top lane, and then we're gonna get it. Then we're gonna get the Octagon 2v2. Hopefully
like-
observers have a way to swap to the Death Realm. Otherwise, like, what if like someone's casting and they're hyping up, they're like, "Let's fucking go!" And then like we don't actually have cam footage inside the Death Realm, so it's literally just fucking the 2 dots like we'd see it in solo queue. It's just moving. We're like, all right, this is
It's like a WWE tag team battle. It's like your 80 carry gets pulled in, tags you in, you just ult in there as well. It's gonna be so epic when it happens one day.
We have to get. There has to be a good Drakos. You gotta start fucking like wordsmithing this shit. You have to have a baller call if that happens.
If that ever I will literally like I'll write it now and I won't use it for years when it does happen. That makes me want like a Mordekaiser Death Realm champion who can like make a Death Realm, but like Bard Portal-esque, anyone else on the team can jump into the Death Realm. But the constraint is it's like hella fucking small, right? It's just like the tiniest octagon. So you just like get everyone to fucking pile in and it's just like tiny ass circle 1v1.
Medic and I were working on like Yone combinations and calls, and so we came up with like the Galio Yone would be the Samurai Smash.
I like that.
With, like,
Samurai
man.
Smash.
Yeah.
It sounds more like a cocktail to me than anything else, but I'm fucking down. It sounds like a good ass cocktail.
What bars
too.
are you drinking at?
To be fair, they always find like creative names for any time there's like a cocktail that includes like any kind of Asian liqueur, like plum wine or anything like that. So I don't know.
Okay.
I go to sushi restaurants. Anywho, we're coming to the end of the show here, chat.
Featured matchup.
Featured matchup for tomorrow. Surprise, surprise. None other than UOL versus LGD.
I'm
Currently
casting that
scheduled as
game.
the final game of the day. Were you casting that with Trevor?
Yeah.
That's about to be a fucking banger. The Quick Shot Caedrel cast.
Yeah, boy. The
Okay.
boomer and the zoomer.
Do you want to give your prediction here now? Because you have to be totally unbiased tomorrow on the casting desk. You want a little bias here? You want to share what you think?
Let's ask Frosk first. Who do you think?
He's like, fuck.
I'm gonna go for the opposite.
Okay. Well, I do not think that Gadget and Santa's, if it's a 2v2 lane, will punish Kramer and Mark, but I also don't think that Kramer and Mark will punish Gadget and Santa's, so that should probably just be a wash. I think Ananasik is super creative with a lot of his pathing, and has a pretty wide champion pool, and for whatever reason, Peanut seems to not play the champions that he's actually like really good at, and then when he does pull out the Lee Sin, he's just like running it. So I think there's been a pretty clear blueprint set up for Unicorns of Love to at least pinch and push Peanut onto something that you don't like. I think Boss is going to be long Shing up into the top side, or at least understands what his responsibility is. So I think Unicorns of Love might have slightly better macro than LGD, but I also think that they're skirmishing and performing individually a lot better. So I think you all are the heavy favorites right now.
I'm gonna go with LGD. I think they're gonna wake up now after their horror 0-2. They're gonna go for scaling.
These are my favorite fucking predictions. People just light your ass up when you say shit like this. You're like, because you have no fucking reason. It's like when I predict Fnatic to turn it around. It's like, guys, the only fucking logic you can possibly have is like historical trends.
I will say
There's nothing
this,
in the
though.
gameplay. You're not like, oh, I've watched Peanut and he's clearly holding back, right? You're not like, oh, he's clearly, he knows what he needs to do, but he doesn't want to reveal his like actual fucking power level right now.
Well, wait, here's how they would actually do it, because Caedrel's absolutely right. That could just possibly happen. But because Unicorns of Love are such a skirmish-heavy team, like, they love to fight you, especially on early Herald, like, LGD will flip that with them. They'll just be like, oh, you guys want to fucking dance? Let's dance. And then just one thing goes wrong, someone shows up on the mechanics, and then suddenly, like, things get snowballed way out of control. And then you're looking, you're like, where was this LGD? What's happening to UL? Like, that shit will, if LGD win, it's because a lot of skirmishes came in, UL just, like, bit, and LGD just bit back.
I'm ready for it. If we're not going to get the Mordekaiser Silas 2v2 in the Death Realm, like, at least give me just, like, constant coin flip skirmishes. I'll take that as second place.
I just hope Peanut plays Graves, Nilly, or Kindred. I just hope he does it. No more Lee Sin.
I would love to see his Kindred.
I don't know, dude. 43 CS, 1, 3, and 4. That was some
Bruh.
shit. 100% kill participation, dude. That's an important stat. Don't forget that, Caedrel.
Hinting for the kills, I like it.
And, you know, supporting the team. He's having impact on the map, you know? Jesus Christ, Peanut. What the fuck happened, man? I remember looking at Peanut and being like, wow, this guy's a genius in that game, so they're so sad.
Whoa. To be fair to Peanut, he is, I don't think, really ever shown, like, genius level. Like, he was always really good because his mechanics were disgustingly good. And when the meta's good for Peanut is like, that is nice, but I would never say that Peanut in his career has ever been like the genius jungler. He's just been ridiculously skilled, and then was also on a ridiculously skilled team that empowered him to just do Peanut things.
I have a question for both of you. Do you think there will be a more horrendous play than the Urgot TP toward in the rest of the playing stage?
The thing is like...
Because that play was the funniest thing.
No.
I kept looking at my keyboard. I was like, how did he manage that?
That's fucking shit, right? But, like, the only thing that cost him is giving up first blood. So, like, there has to be. Because, like, when you look at it, obviously it looks fucking stupid, but it's a single button press, right? Like, there has to be something more int that's going to happen, right? Like, someone has to, like, fully commit to a fight they absolutely can't get win, and they just, like, get one tapped instantly. And that has to be dumber than, like, misclicking fucking teleport.
Yeah, LG did
I think that was pretty...
LG did that. They went for a 4v5 on a dragon for no reason. Second Drake got aced and lost Baron, so yeah.
It'll never be as obviously hilarious, though, as the fucking random TP, though. That's what I'll say. It's like, the obvious TP is so good because it's so obviously stupid, right?
It's just the camera's right there. It just happens. It's the best thing ever. It's like one of those moments when you're just filming, like, your friends walking around the city or something, and then something incredible happens while you're filming, and you just catch it on that moment. I don't know. It's what's spectacular.
Fuck, it hurts. It actually hurts. Chat questions. We got time for like 2 or 3, I think, before we close out for the day.
Okay, chat, ask your questions. I can't answer that question, chat. Next question.
Favorite alcoholic beverage? Can't say that, no.
Which playing teams do you think will have the best shot at making it out of groups?
Out of like groups proper or Playins groups? Out
I
of
would
groups,
say Supermassive, Team Liquid, and
groups.
Unicorns of Love.
I would agree with that.
Will Shadow play Evelyn again during play-ins?
No,
You better fucking hope not.
unless they want to go home.
Unless Peter Dunn's secret strategy is that 5th seed is somehow better than 4th seed. But maybe he's read some fine print that I haven't, but I don't think that's the way it's going to be.
Which champion is most overrated at Worlds? I know Caedrel has opinions on that.
Yeah, what's overrated, Caedrel?
The most overrated champion at Worlds. That's a good question. Twitch, I think. Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch Recon feels pretty overrated after we saw it like win one game and then everyone fucking like first rotation just fucking slams Twitch Recon. Half the games today.
It's talking to Vedius. Tarek Tristana. Look for it.
Tarek Tristana.
Do you think if
It's
Mad,
either Twitch or Graves for sure.
do you think if Mad make it out of play-ins, do you think they have any chance now? I mean, I think the longer the tournament goes on, the better Mad's chances are.
The thing is if Mad make it out of play-ins, they've already like redeemed themselves in some capacity. They can't make it out at the levels that they're playing right now. So like, if they make it out, they'll already have to be better. So the question is, how much better will they be? And I don't have an answer for that.
Anything, Caedrel?
Well, if they sandbag it, go third, do a best of 5 to 5 games, then a best of 5 to 5 games again, and then come into group stage with 15 games under their belt, maybe they're going to do good in group stage.
What do
More
you think?
games is always better.
What do you think about R7 winning over LGD?
That shit's fucking glorious.
That was
Especially
glorious.
because
That was mind-blowing.
LATAM has a history of like pretty solid group stage performances, especially like the Seiya Adi days, right? Once they combined, obviously LAS always kind of sucks. Sorry, Chaos Latin Gamers, you guys never really did anything, except for like that one time. But like these are all rookies, so like any win fucking matters, and beating LGD has to feel good. Like that's got to, especially for their mid laner who actually played really well. Alone played really well. The rest of the team was a bit of a mess, but he earned it, so God bless.
Hey, do you want anything else, Drakos?
No, I think should TL bench Jensen because he ruined the perfect game. Yes. They should bench him just in time to play Supermassive so that they can get second seed and play either LGD in a best of 5. Because that's the banger we're all waiting for. That's my pitch, Liquid. Think of the storylines.
I will say this. After the discourse with Freak on Twitter, I would gladly lose Fnatic and JDG if I could get the Rogue TSM best of 5. I would gladly take the L on that.
I would be happy with that one too.
Yeah, I'm there too, but that's not a good look as like an EU pundit, right? You know what I mean? Like we're like at the point where like the memes are way better than the victories. Like that's how fucking committed we are to Worlds. Like maybe Mad Lions has already sent us too far down this dark spiral. Where we're like, fuck it, I just want to laugh.
Burn it all.
I know I'm gonna cry. I just also
Twitter and see the
want to
memes.
laugh. Memes number 1. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Worlds After Dark. Thanks, Caedrel, for coming on. Make sure to follow Caedrel at
Follow
Caedrel.
Caedrel at Caedrel. CAEDREL.
He didn't spam it as much as Spawn, which means we had more League of Legends content. So that means you should love him even more because of that. He's also very smart, and it sounds like he's going to continue to jungle, but at some point he'll become a caster. Inevitably, it's going to happen. We'll drag him down. We'll just unplug his keyboard every game until he gives up when he joins our team.
You actually haven't seen that in the fine print, Caedrel, but after you've been a pro for a certain number of years, your contract specifically is like, I must become an LEC broadcaster, so...
That's true. That's actually how we got Deficio. Yeah, it's like if your KDA drops to a certain point, which as we all know, Deficio pretty rough season, you have to become a caster. That's the rule.
Actually, how long did Deficio play pro play in the LCS?
I think just season
How
3,
long did he one-trick Zyra and Nami? Who knows?
2 tricks. He had 2 tricks. Come on, the man had 2 tricks.
What a legend.
Other than that, if you have a Prime subscription available or some spare cash and you want to support the Froskurinn Twitch channel, do so now. Hit that subscribe button. Get some love from Froskurinn. Give some love back to
Any
Froskurinn.
primers?
Any primers in the chat.
Any primers in the chat?
On YouTube,
Oh, there's one.
Subscribe. Also follow, subscribe. Keep it up to date. We're going to be doing this just about every day, if not every day. Obviously, some shit could come out of nowhere. That's why I got to give that caveat. But mostly we're planning to do it every day. So yeah, this has been... Playins day 2 for Worlds After Dark, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for day 3. Woo.
Also, guys, reminder that we will be playing flex games after this, but I need to end the stream so I can have a nice VOD for Drakos. So everyone wave.
I need that VOD, people. Stay, chat. Stay. 30 seconds. Fucking stay.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't go anywhere.
Here we go.